Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Kris. Sorry. Oh, come on. There we go. All right. It's one of those days. It's extremely nice out. I got the windows open. I got some. You can hear. So, it's a Sunday. It's noon. It's nice outside. Oh, what a wonderful day. All right. Before we get. Oh, sorry. This is History, Rebels, American Revolution, turning the tide at Guilford Courthouse. 1781. I don't know what that means. I'm joking. All right, before we get started, if you can click that thumbs up, bare minimum, says you like the video, it's good. It tells YouTube that other people might want to see it. Helps me out. Subscribe to the channel if you like the content. Click on the thanks button if you want to keep the channel rolling. All right, this is going to be 2 videos. What did I say? I'll probably stop it around, somewhere around here. This looks like it's stopping point at the 19-minute mark. Perfect timing. All right. Let's shut up and get into it. Oh, wait. Nope. You got to go back up there. All right.
In collaboration with our friend Luke at the channel Revere 0311. On the morning of the 18th of January 1781, and one day after the Battle of Cowpens, an exhausted and defeated Colonel Bannister Tarleton rides into British General Cornwallis's camp. All eyes watch as he approaches his furious commander and explains, perhaps ashamed, that General Morgan and the Continentals have not only defeated him, but captured close to 1,000 men.
That was a brilliant battle, by the way. Cowpens. Brilliant.
Cornwallis is left in disbelief. His campaign is already not going to plan. So far, victories have been indecisive, while defeats are increasingly disastrous. And now Cowpens reduces his field army to just 2,500 men, with the rest of his forces tied down fighting partisans across South Carolina and Georgia. In New York, General Clinton, Commander-in-Chief of British forces, is growing concerned about the situation and instructs Cornwallis to be on the defensive, consolidating his forces while avoiding costly inland campaigns and any further disasters. Clinton and Lord Germain in London fully understand that outright victory in the war is unlikely, and now, ahead of anticipated peace talks, believe that they must concentrate their efforts on securing as much territory in the lucrative South as possible. But Cornwallis vehemently disagrees with Clinton's more passive strategy and believes that his only chance of victory in the South is to find and defeat the Continental Army.
I think, and maybe this is just me, I think that one of the failures of the British was that the king sent everyone over, or Parliament. Hold on. Okay. Sent everyone over. And they all had different ideas of what they wanted to do, what they wanted to achieve and accomplish, and their plan of attack, instead of one big consolidated plan of, okay, we're doing this, you're going to go there, you're going to go there, you're going to go there, and then we're going to meet. You know, everyone was an individual. And I understand they're just trying to fight their battles, but because they were individuals, no one wanted to help someone else because that might have given them credit. And no one wanted to come to the aid of someone because it didn't benefit them. And this is just my opinion. It just seemed like all of the British generals had their own ideas instead of trying to collaborate. That's the word. And have one unified plan. They did try here and there, but they couldn't get everyone on board. That's just my opinion on that.
While expanding British control into North Carolina to reduce Continental supplies being sent south to the partisans. The next day, on the 19th of January, Cornwallis, eager to strike while his enemy is divided, sets out on a campaign that will make or break British control in the south. General Morgan, fresh from his tactical masterstroke against Tarleton, has also started moving his army. He plans for a delaying action and marches to cover the Catawba River. Although initially leading from the front in his usual style, Morgan's health has taken a significant turn for the worse. Plagued by chronic illnesses, he is soon bedbound in camp, to his deep frustration. General Greene, meanwhile, commanding Continental forces in the south, has over 2,000 men, including 1,400 regulars and some 800 militia. However, his army has been shrinking as militia enlistments end and men go home, despite Greene's pleas for them to stay. Splitting his army weeks earlier had been a gamble that paid off well at Cowpens. But now, and after hearing of Cornwallis's advance, he starts moving to reunite with Morgan and present a united front. His orders from his commander-in-chief, General Washington, are to exhaust the British in a war of attrition, avoid costly defeats, and crush Loyalist resolve in the south. Against General Clinton's wishes, Cornwallis is now marching deep into the inhospitable forests, swamps, and muddy roads of the Carolinas backcountry. He aims to find and defeat Greene, or at least force him over the Dan River and out of North Carolina. With the January rains, the march is miserable and the British struggle to keep track of their enemy. At Cowpens, Cornwallis had lost the majority of his light troops, who typically act as the army's eyes and ears. He is left with mostly regiments of the line, deadly on the battlefield, but not used to the kind of lightning advances that Cornwallis is hoping for. Desperate to increase the speed of his army, Cornwallis now takes a radical step, and one perhaps even more unorthodox than Greene's decision to split his army months earlier. Cornwallis burns his baggage train. Everything non-essential is thrown on a huge fire, including tents, wagons, excess food, clothing, and even the army's cherished rum supplies, leaving the soldiers cold, wet, and to their horror, sober. Whatever the army needed would now be carried on their backs. Cornwallis sets the example by burning his personal effects, including fine china, silverware, and wine. These actions are unprecedented and sends a clear message, epitomized by a senior officer. It was resolved that we would follow Greene's army to the end of the world. What would soon be called the Race to the Dan had begun. By the 30th of January, Greene and Morgan finally reunite their forces. A war council is held on the banks of the Catawba River, and as they talk, Cornwallis is seen on the opposite bank, watching on through a spyglass. The situation is tense, and Greene fears he does not have the strength to stop the British fording one of the many crossing points along the river. The decision is made for the Continentals to retreat to Salisbury, while the 800-strong militia under General Davidson is to stay and fight a delaying action if the British attempt to cross. In the early hours of the 1st of February, a fog hangs over Cowan's Ford, which stretches 500 yards from bank to bank. The British army, with unloaded muskets, creeps slowly into the river. Cornwallis is at the front, while Patriot sentries sleep at their posts in the distance. The water gets to chest height as the regulars cross, and the fast current soon sweeps unlucky men away. As the British get midstream, the sound of drowning men is finally heard by shocked sentries, and the alarm is raised. Within minutes, a torrent of fire is unleashed into the crossing mass of redcoats. Cornwallis's horse is hit several times, along with a number of his men. Patriot General Davidson arrives and surveys the scene, encouraging his men and organizing the defenses. Soon, the British are desperately scrambling up the riverbank and returning fire of their own, in chaotic close-quarter fighting. In the confusion, Davidson is shot dead from his horse. His loss quickly puts the militia to flight, ending the battle prematurely and enabling the British to cross. The attack had been daring by Cornwallis and could well have ended in disaster. It is also lightly costly. He reports just 40 casualties, but the real number is no doubt higher. A troubling start for his small army. As the British column moves forward, both armies are now racing to the next major river, the Yadkin, on roads thick with mud thanks to the near constant torrential rain. Both sides suffer greatly in the miserable conditions. On the march, British and German soldiers burn a number of houses, and with Tarleton's legion menacing the area, Greene's militiamen start to abandon the army to find their families. Despite being further behind, the British soon catch up, but not before Greene is able to make the dangerous crossing by boat. And once again, the two generals face off across a swollen river. As the British look for a safe ford to cross, the Continentals arrive at Guilford Courthouse. There, the highly capable Daniel Morgan, with his ailments getting worse, finally leaves the army for home. A severe loss for Greene. To make matters worse, the Patriot militia is continuing to evaporate, accelerated by news of Cornwallis's approach. Outnumbered and outclassed, Greene makes the difficult decision to continue the retreat. A fresh and final race soon begins to the Dan River, where Tarleton and his opposite number, Light Horse Harry Lee, spar off on the roads north. In minor scale,
Light Horse Harry Lee is the father of Robert E. Lee, by the way, if anyone cares.
skirmishes, Lee's legion hold off the British, while screening the direction of Greene's retreat. Cornwallis pushes his army hard and almost to breaking point, even marching through the night, desperate to get ahead of the Continentals. The Dan River is wide, and the British rightly assume that any crossing will be a difficult and timely affair. But Greene's relentless planning and attention to detail is about to pay off. Days earlier, Greene had ordered that boats be massed at Irwin's Ferry, which he now promptly uses to cross the river and escape into Virginia. Just hours later, Cornwallis arrives to see his enemy once again on the opposite side of a riverbank. A crushing sight for his men after marching an impressive 40 miles in 31 hours. Their only problem was, the Continentals had done it in 20. With the Continentals across the desert, their only problem was, the Continentals had done it in 20.
Wow. So they're doing 2 miles an hour. And they did less than 1. No. 40 miles in 31 hours. Okay, yeah, so they were doing 1 plus. Yeah. It doesn't take long. Sorry. That's just the light. It doesn't take long. If you're doing 2 and the other person's doing, we'll say 1 1/4. Then you've got 4 and they've got 2 1/2. And you've got 6 and they got 3 3/4. And you have 8 and they have 4. And you're like, okay, well, this is not going well.
With the Continentals across the Dan, the British were now at least the only remaining army in North Carolina. But in 17 days, they had been drawn in over 250 miles, lost almost 500 men, and only directly controlled a small portion of the territory. Exhausted and hungry, Cornwallis moves to Hillsborough to arrest and recruit local militias. While the Continentals enjoy well-organized supplies in Virginia, discipline starts to rapidly break down in the British camp. Soldiers break off to steal food or whiskey, despite severe threats from Cornwallis to stop. The looting makes the army unpopular, severely damaging recruitment efforts. Yet Green's position is far from perfect. Although his Continentals have remained in good spirits, his militia has shrunk to less than 100, and he knows the British predicament will slowly improve if unchallenged. Local Tories would eventually mobilise, and supplies from the Royal Navy arrive. To keep Patriot hopes alive in North Carolina, Light Horse Harry and his legion quietly slip back across the Dan River. On the afternoon of the 25th of February, 400 local loyalists have responded to Cornwallis's requests and gathered to join the British. As they march, they are on the lookout for Tarleton and his legion, who have been ordered to escort them to Hillsborough. Ahead on the road, the green-jacketed cavalrymen appear, and cheers soon erupt. Relieved to see the famed Tarleton, friendly banter and cries of "God save the King" ring out as the cavalry move alongside the loyalists, who salute and compliment the militia in return as they slowly ride past. But all is not as it seems. Unfortunately for the North Carolinian loyalists, Light Horse Harry's legion also wear green jackets and have been moving across the backcountry pretending to be Tarleton's legion for days now. What followed was quick and bloody. Without warning, Lee's dragoons wheel around and charge their loyalist countrymen with sabres and pistols. Within minutes, almost 100 stunned men are cut down dead, many begging for mercy from who they still believe to be allies and friends. The action is soon over and the survivors flee to their homes. Later that evening, a number of loyalist prisoners would be murdered, with cries of "Remember Guilford," continuing the never-ending cycle of violence and retaliation in civil war.
A lot of I just lost my train of thought. Oh, I was thinking Bannister Tarleton, and it was just like, well, he wasn't in this. No. So a lot of the things that Tarleton did, like he was involved in the Waxhaws massacre, where they just killed people who surrendered. And I think that's already happened for Guilford Courthouse. I think it's already happened, but I could be wrong. Yes, it did. Okay, so yeah, it already did. So a lot of the people are doing exactly what the British under Tarleton did, where it's, hey, they surrender, kill them. That's what they did to us. You know, they didn't show us the decency of it, so we're not going to do the same for them. And I'm not saying that that's right or wrong, because I'm not in that situation. You're not in that situation. We would act completely different have we had been, or if we knew people who were killed that way, and then you find out later a bunch of people surrendered and they killed them anyways. You'd probably think, well, that my friend was one of those people, or my family, or something like that. So yeah, you'd probably lash out and do the same thing. Not saying it's right or wrong. It's just human nature, unfortunately.
Pyle's massacre, as it would soon be known, would have disastrous consequences for the British. Unlike the Battle of Waxhaws a year earlier, where Colonel Buford's Continentals were similarly cut down by Tarleton's legion, this action would have the opposite effect. Whereas Waxhaw had inflamed patriot passions and rallied support, Pyle's massacre does the reverse. Loyalist morale is devastated, and further recruitment halted overnight. On the 22nd of February, Greene recrosses the Dan in force. For the next 3 weeks, the two generals once again play cat and mouse in North Carolina. But this time, Greene's army is growing. With arriving reinforcements, he soon has almost 1,800 Continentals.
And he's also gaining people because of the retaliation that just happened to Pyle. Every time I see Pyle, I want to say Gomer Pyle. But because of that, and of course, there are some people that, they just don't like Tarleton. Doesn't matter what's happened, they don't like him.
And 2,600 militia, compared to Cornwallis's 2,000 regulars and provincials. Feeling finally ready to confront his enemy, Greene moves back to Guilford Courthouse, where only weeks earlier he had carefully examined the ground. As the British arrive, the cavalries once again skirmish ahead of the main bodies. The fighting is indecisive, but Tarleton loses several fingers during the encounter. The scene is finally set for a decisive battle in North Carolina.
Hey there, 0311, former Marine infantryman, Revolutionary War reenactor, and amateur history enthusiast. Now let's start this video. Today I'm going to run through how the Continental and British militaries were organized and fought during the American Revolutionary War. At the start of 1775, there was no unified military force representing all 13 colonies. Instead, individual colonies, especially those in New England, raised their own regiments in response to the battles of Lexington and Concord. These regiments formed a loosely organized force known as the Army of Observation. It was this ad hoc army that surrounded the British in Boston during the spring and early summer of 1775. In June of 1775, the Second Continental Congress formally brought together the various colonial militias into a single force known as the Continental Army. Appointing George Washington as its commander-in-chief, this marked the official creation of a unified American army. The name Continental Army reflected its purpose to defend not just one colony or region, but all 13 colonies as a unified front. Unlike the regionally focused local militias, the Continental Army was a national force, raised by Congress designed to fight across the entire continent. And it did, from the frozen gates of Quebec to the swamps of Florida. It was this army that fought directly in opposition to British rule. But in its infancy, this army had a variety of problems to overcome. Enlistments were short, typically lasting only until the end of the calendar year. As a result, just as soldiers were beginning to grasp the basics of soldiering and how to operate effectively as a unit, their terms expired and thousands of trained men left the ranks. To Washington's great frustration, he had to rebuild the army year after year with inexperienced recruits. In September of 1776, Congress adopted Washington's proposal for a standing army of 88 regiments, with soldiers enlisted for 3 years or the duration of the war. This was a turning point. Though states still struggled to meet quotas and recruitment remained uneven, it provided Washington and Continental commanders like Nathaniel Greene with a more dependable core of veteran soldiers who could be trained, retrained, and relied upon across multiple campaigns. Further reforms followed in 1778 and 1779. During the harsh winter at Valley Forge, Baron von Steuben introduced standardized drills and procedures. His Blue Book revolutionized training, standardized movements, improved musket handling by simplifying the drill, and enforcing discipline, marking a major milestone to the creation of a professional fighting force. By 1780, financial pressures and a shortage of manpower forced another reorganization. The army was reduced to 50 regiments of about 500 men each. Specialist roles like light infantry, engineers, and combined armed legions were introduced, creating a smaller but more versatile force. The British Army, by contrast, was a well-organized machine at the outbreak of the war, and, contrary to popular opinion, was well prepared to fight a less than traditional war in the backwoods of North America. General Howe had written a light infantry manual in 1774, attaching a light company to each regiment, specifically for skirmishing, guerrilla warfare, and independent movement. Numbers fluctuated throughout the war, but approximately half of the entire British Army was deployed to the Americas. At its height, some 35,000 men across the 13 colonies in Canada. This meant
We're going to get ready to stop it right here, but 1775, we had 17,000 to 7. Up to 20,000, down to 10,000 by December. And they went from 7 to 32. Wow, they maxed out at 35. I kind of thought they had more than that. I figured like maybe 55 to 60,000. 35 still a lot, don't get me wrong. We never hit those numbers. I mean, we maxed out at 25. I mean, we hit 20. We're down to 10 by December of 76. And we get some of those people back, but we also rebuild to 25,000. It's not bad. And then we lose anywhere from 7 to 10,000. And they maintained some strong, I mean, at the start, they maintained some really strong numbers right here. And then you can tell the French influence when they had to start pulling some people out. And of course, the war's pretty much over. Was it September of 81 with, spoiler, or was it September, October with Yorktown? And then it just became they're stationed here, but there's no real fight. We withdrew troops as well. Well, not withdrew, but we, I don't want to say mustered out, but maybe we did. Kind of saw the writing on the wall. I mean, to lose this many, lose that 5,000, that's a big drop considering they didn't lose that many at all. And if something were to kick off in 1783, then you're looking at, you have to try to build up your military. And they're going to have to do the same thing, which I think is safe to say once you start getting into the peace talks, you're not going to run the risk of it ending, because the British don't want to turn around and try to send a bunch of people back here. If they're at 12, they'll probably get back to 25,000 maybe. You know, more than double. And we would go from 5 to probably 15 to 18. We'd probably reach these numbers again. And they would be, let's say they're here, and we would be here in this range, I would guess. And then what? We fighting all over again? No. Once it was starting to go down, I think the British kind of were looking for that way out. They just wanted it over. The war for them was all over the world. It wasn't just necessarily here. It was for us. It was all over the world for them. I really did think they had more than that. I thought they had like 55 to 60,000 troops here, but maybe I'm thinking that because of the early asks from some of the Howe brothers and stuff like that. I'm reading. Hold on. It's an audio book. Give me a second. So I'm listening to an audio book. That I actually own the book. Shots Heard Around the World by John Fearling. He might have been one of the guys that, oh my goodness, come on. He might have been one of the guys that they interviewed, actually, that History Rebels interviewed, and I might have bought this book because of it. I know Lingle was one they did, and I have the 10 Key Campaigns of the American Revolution. But I'm not too far into this. I'm like 4 chapters in or something like that. But yeah, one of the guys is asking for like 50 or 60,000 troops. And they were like, yeah, the British were like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. Now I'm just flipping through the pages. All right. Well, anyways, we're going to end this here. This is part 1. We will be back with part 2. But until then, have a good day. Have a good night.